If you've been a fan of Star Wars Empire at War for as long as I have, you've likely come across some of the fantastic mods available for it. Whether you've had a friend recommend one to you, or maybe you saw one on ModDB, or maybe you even saw one of my videos, there's no shortage of options and information out there on what ones are the ones to play, and how much they can change your experience with the game. Last year, I covered a handful of mods that I thought were the best that the community had to offer, and one of the most exciting examples I talked about was Empire at War Remake. As the name implies, its intention was to recreate Empire at War for the modern day, with new visuals and gameplay that would make it feel entirely fresh. Well, just recently the developers have released the long-awaited 4.0 update, the Grand Update as they call it. And, oh boy, is this a big one. It's been nearly 2.5 years since version 3.0, and this new release brings massive changes, additions, and updates to a mod that was already loved by many, me included. While the devs themselves do still describe it as far from a finished product, they do consider it to now be a complete experience, with major reworks ticked off and the sandbox fleshed out. While the changelog is massive, some key features include sweeping overhauls to both ground and space combat, new factions and sub-factions, economy and AI overhauls, tons of new buildings and units, as well as more niche things like thousands of new sound effects, updated unit descriptions, and more. So yeah, it's basically every element of the entire game. Anyway, enough talk. Let's jump in and see what it really has to offer, shall we? Actually, wait, hold that thought. I need to talk about performance before we go any further, because there are some issues and they're worth going over. Basically, the fault falls on the feet of Empire at War. The game tends to run like arse if it's heavily modded, like the footage you're seeing now. It's kind of just a side effect on how old it is and the engine it's running on. So if you're having similar frame rate related difficulties, there is a solution. Basically, modern CPUs and their really high core counts cause Empire at War to have a bit of a meltdown. So what you need to do is jump into your task manager while the game is running, find the Empire at War process, right click and click details, and then right click again and go to set affinity. Depending on your CPU, you'll have a certain number of available cores here, and what you want to do is untick all of them except for core 0 and core 1. You can also change the process priority to real time, although your mileage and PC performance may vary with this one. I found it did help most of the time, but regardless of whether I ticked it or not, the game still does chug a bit when it gets busy. With that last point, there can be some downsides to that too. I ran into this really lovely game-breaking bug which caused the left third of the game to just melt? I don't know what this is. Luckily it did go away after I restarted, but who knows if and when it will show again. Old games, big mods, sometimes there's just issues and you might need to try it yourself and see if any or none will apply to you. For the most part, Empire at War Remake is an excellent mod, expanding the core game to the point where it feels fresh even for quite a veteran player like myself. And if you remember back to my time playing an earlier version of the mod in my roundup video, I was pretty positive on it. And that's not to say I'm not positive on it now, because I am, but after spending more time with the mod and really getting to know it, there are some things that I'm not a huge fan of here. But let's start with the positives. First off, content, C-O-N-T-E-N-T, man, there is a lot here. Overhauled factions, tons of new ships and vehicles, modular space stations, massive new galactic conquest maps with sub-factions, AI overhauls, new buildings, abilities and units for ground battles, custom loading screens, and more. Again, look at that changelog. It's really enjoyable to just explore everything there is to see, because there's so much new stuff it feels like you're just constantly running into something exciting. Whether that's an enemy fielding a ship that you've never seen before in a space battle, or encountering a new minor faction in Galactic Conquest, or firing off a special ability that you've never seen just to see what it does. Thanks to all this new stuff, playing Empire at War Remake is almost like playing the sequel to Empire at War that we never got. Diving back into Galactic Conquest with all this new stuff to play almost made me feel like I was playing again for the first time. And wow, the graphical overhaul, it is significant. Getting land battles out of the way first, these are the least striking, and they've never been Empire at War's strong suit, as we all know. Textures are still muddy, terrain is still lacking, and units are still a bit too, polygonal, for my taste. The effects are better, and that's about it. But when you move on to space, things get very interesting. The backdrops are really stunning, with a fantastic variety of beautiful settings that really do blow the original game out of the water. Special effects are also really impressive. Ship explosions in particular are really incredible, and backed up by improved laser fire and other weapon effects, watching huge capitals fight it out has never looked so good. Oh, and a nice touch is that ship carcasses just stay on the battlefield for ages now, which is really cool. And finally, let's talk about the audio. On the mod page, the developers have claimed that over 9,000 new audio files have been added for voice lines, music, and sound effects. And look, I believe them. There are so many new lines here that it's almost a novelty to hear something that was from the original Empire at War. And it's really great hearing a mix of completely new recordings and pieces pulled straight from the original trilogy, and combining all these with all the new effects for weapons fire, explosions, and special abilities, it all just helps to add spice to the whole thing. And it's a really easy way to help everything seem brand new, even if some of those sound effects are from movies that are decades old. Alright, now onto the issues I have. I think my biggest gripe with Empire at War Remake, besides the performance, which afflicts all Empire at War mods, are some of the changes made to the game's UI and visuals, and they kind of go hand in hand in this case. So I had some real trouble actually seeing where my units were on screen a lot of the time, especially in space battles with dark maps. Thanks to the much zoomed out camera, a lot of early game units like fighters, frigates, and corvettes are minuscule, way smaller than they were before, and it's almost impossible to see them without looking really closely or using the minimap. I was constantly running into trouble, not knowing where new units had been deployed to, or where my fighter squadron was, or even whose units belong to who because of the reduced team colour information that's displayed on textures. Honestly, it made playing space battles kind of a pain, which is a shame because they're still clearly superior to the battles on land. Because of this, I always went out of my way to play on a light coloured map in skirmish, and in Galactic Conquest I did begin to rely on auto-resolve a bit more than I would have liked. It's not as bad on land, as the units and terrain contrast pretty well most of the time, but I did still find it occasionally irritating with infantry and build stations. Overall, I think this problem could be solved with either more of an emphasis on team colours and unit textures, or some extra UI elements showing where units are at all times. And while I realise that could bring its own problems of having a cluttered mess of icons on screen whenever you've got tons of ships deployed, but I'm sure there's a middle ground somewhere in there. Right, look, overall, Empire at War Remake version 4, the grand update, is great. It adds an absolute ton of new stuff, makes worthwhile changes to Empire at War's core, and it looks fantastic. There's seriously so much new here that I'm sure I've missed a bunch of things in this video. The mod really does live up to its name. And despite those issues I mentioned with some of the UI and visual elements, these aren't enough to stop me from giving a hearty recommendation here. If you've been thinking of dusting off Empire at War for just another round, then this is the perfect time to do it. And luckily installing the mod is super easy too. With the Empire at War Gold Pack on Steam, you just subscribe to the mod in Steam Workshop, and select it in the mod section of Forces of Corruption. Couldn't be simpler. And I don't know where I'm going to put this, I'll probably just put it at the end. There's this hilarious bug I ran into, and it's not like a game breaker, it's more just funny. And this also might be something other people have run into before, it's new to me. So basically when I was selecting the mod, I don't really know what I did, but somehow I deleted like the whole UI and got placed into a game. And I figured out that the game is the battle that's going on in the menu screen. I always thought that was just a looped video of a space battle, but it's actually a real-time space battle happening in the background, and it's always the same battle, and it's just using the battle cam with all the UI turned off. So I actually got into that game somehow, but I couldn't control anything, so it was like everyone was being controlled by the AI, and I would just be able to press menu buttons, and sometimes it would work, and then the game just crashed, and I was very confused. So yeah, don't know really I'm going to put that, but I just found it very funny. Let me know if you've seen that before. Anyway, let's wrap this up. If you've played the mod, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. and please go and check out the team and the mod on ModDB and consider supporting them if you're interested. It's always great to see the community do fantastic work like this, and anything you can do, I'm sure they would appreciate. And lastly, thank you for watching my video. Hit subscribe for more content like this in the future, and if you'd like to support me directly, you can do so either here on YouTube with a membership, or over on Patreon with a patron join. There's no word for that. Anyway, you'll join legends like T-Edits, Crispy Rubber Chicken, Jack Walsh, Nutty Jawa, Crizzy218, Overlord Jeebus, Dakayo, David DeBoyi, and Standby for Systems Nominal. And Standby for Systems Nominal supports me at the Paladin tier, so thank you very much, much appreciated. Anyways, thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.